In the city of Cyprus in 300 BC, there lived a wealthy merchant named Zeno. While traveling from Phoenicia to Piraeus, his ship sank with all of its cargo. Because of this event, which was beyond the control of Zeno or anyone else, this very rich man suddenly became poor. Imagine yourself in Zeno's shoes. How would you react if your entire life was destroyed in an instant? By a force of nature? What would be the right reaction? Would you be angry? Would you be sad? Would you feel that life has deceived you? For most of us, these reactions seem normal, but not for Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. One small change can last forever, and one small mindset adjustment can lead to bigger and more impactful changes in the future. The essence of Stoicism is acceptance and indifference. After reading the works of Socrates and other great philosophers, Zeno created and taught Stoicism. According to Zeno, while we can't control much of what happens to us, we can control how it affects us, and we should use that control to our advantage. Instead of crying over spilled milk, or in this case, over a drowned cargo, Zeno focused on remaining calm about the situation. Remaining calm and neutral despite his difficult situation. Today, people often perceive Stoics as those who cannot be broken, who rarely show emotional extremes, such as bouts of anger or anxiety. But the original idea of Stoicism was much deeper than that. Stoicism is not just a way of describing people who do not show emotions. It is a way of seeing, describing, and understanding the world. It was a way of life that persisted for centuries. The philosophy of Stoicism can be applied to modern situations, just as it was thousands of years ago, and its benefits are just as influential. Stoicism allows us to process negative emotions from negative experiences and turn them into thoughts that give us a unique perspective on the world. Perspective is everything, and everyone in the world has different experiences and therefore different perspectives on things. Because the Stoics gathered, discussed, and taught philosophy in public places, their general philosophy was widely known. They believed that the principles of Stoicism could greatly benefit everyone, so it made no sense for them to hide this knowledge behind the four walls of a school or palace courtyards. As a result, from a slave to an emperor, everyone could learn and become a Stoic, and so it was. Some of the most famous Stoics in the world include Epictetus, whose name translates to acquired because he was once a slave, Seneca, a famous statesman, and Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the most influential people who ever lived. The early Stoics practiced what they preached, avoiding all forms of segregation and fighting against inequality. They even coined the word cosmopolitan, which literally means citizen of the world. When people hear this word now, they think of cities like New York, Toronto, Dubai, and London because of their diversity, which was the unity and cohesion that the Stoics preached. At the time of the founding of Stoicism, women were not allowed to practice philosophy, but the Stoics completely disagreed with this. Epictetus' teacher Musonius Rufus once said, "Not only men have a desire for virtue, but women do too. Women enjoy noble and just deeds no less than men and reject the opposite." Given this, why is it acceptable for men to seek and investigate how they can live well, i.e., to engage in philosophy, but not for women? Even in times when it was not popular, women were free to study Stoicism and become Stoics themselves. So why do so many people embrace Stoicism as a way of life? In a world full of unexpected events, our emotions can get in the way. In fact, we don't get upset because bad things happen. We get upset because unexpected bad things happen. Rain is a good thing. It helps water our plants, provides water for livestock, and keeps temperatures cool and humid. But when a dark cloud catches you outside without an umbrella, it's never a pleasant experience. So why don't we start crying when it starts to rain? Because even though the situation is bad, we have learned to expect rain. It is something inevitable. We cannot control the weather. Although it is unpleasant, the rain passes and the light returns. Stoicism teaches us that we should also expect that everything bad that can happen will happen. Imagine the worst possible outcome and be calm in the knowledge that it can happen. One of the Stoic exercises is called voluntary discomfort, an exercise aimed at increasing your sense of gratitude. Sleep on the floor of your kitchen. Take cold showers when you normally take hot ones. Eat only potatoes for a few days, things like that. This exercise helps you realize that no matter how hard it is, you will still survive and can thrive if your mind is right. Through the ability to withstand these unpleasant situations, we indirectly prepare our minds for future setbacks. In the current state of the world, with advertisements constantly pulling us in, we are made to believe that if we don't have the best things, look a certain way, or make a certain amount of money, we will never be happy. This message is more important now than ever. We enter the world without knowing much. We grow up learning at home, at school, and by observing the world on our own. The fact is that often all three sources of knowledge teach us differently. The question is, do we need to internalize all this knowledge? If we do, we may unconsciously set unrealistic expectations for our lives, which will ultimately lead to disappointment and dissatisfaction. This is not a way to live. We must focus on improving ourselves, for ourselves. We must do things for ourselves and for that reason alone. Attaching any external hope or additional expectations to our actions almost always leads to disappointment. Most often we try to fill this void with external things, buying expensive cars, houses, or even starting a family. Sometimes we do all this for the sake of external value, not internal value. But Stoicism teaches that if we approach life in this way, we put our happiness in the hands of external forces that can fail us. Cars often break down, natural disasters destroy entire cities, and the divorce rate is growing every year. But even free things in life have a price. The price of space, both physical and mental. As Seneca wrote, learning to live with fewer resources will create space in your life for the things that really matter. We must base our happiness on our intrinsic value as human beings and not on what we have or can physically acquire. We should try to keep a calm mind no matter what life throws at us. Because no matter what we want, we have no control over most things that happen to us. But we do have full control over how we react to it. This is the dichotomy of control, the most important principle of Stoic philosophy. In the words of Epictetus, the main task in life is to identify and separate matters so that I can tell myself clearly which are external and beyond my control and which concern decisions that I do control. The Stoics teach us to learn to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot control. We should measure our value not by the things we cannot control, but by the things we can. Striving for goals is a good trait, but collapsing when something doesn't go according to plan is, from the Stoics' point of view, useless. Creating a YouTube video is a lot easier than being a Roman emperor, but it can still be challenging sometimes. First, you have to formulate your idea, which takes forever. Then research that idea. Reject it because it doesn't fit. Start again, write a script. Create a video, edit it, create a thumbnail title, and everything else before you click the upload button. All these steps are up to you until you click the upload button. However, once you hit the upload button, the power goes to YouTube's algorithm. However, many people judge the success of their YouTube channel or Instagram account by the number of views and subscribers or followers, metrics that are largely out of your control. Stoics teach that you should instead measure the success of your work by the amount of effort you put in, not by the results of your external expectations. Trust the process. Living with less means freeing yourself from the societal shackles you've placed on yourself. Think of a person who has worked hard at his job for the past 6 months. Now he feels that he deserves a promotion and goes to his boss with a report of his accomplishments. The boss thanks him, but doesn't give him a raise. And he goes home thinking he's not doing his job. He doesn't consider the possibility that the boss might have woken up angry. Someone else might have been better prepared at the time, or the company simply couldn't afford it due to financial constraints. He doesn't know the reason, but he is still upset. If he had simply measured his value by the quality of his performance report, and continued to do what he was doing to get the promotion he wanted. He could have been much happier overall. With the right mindset, his goal would not have been diminished but simply postponed. This mindset shift is key. A true Stoic does not judge his success by the financial benefits of his endeavors, but rejoices in the fact that he can live a comfortable life without all the things that money can buy. There are four main virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. Wisdom is the ability to distinguish between what is internal and what is external, and the ability to choose our response to what happens to us. As Viktor Frankl said, there is a space between stimulus and reaction. In this space is our power to choose our reaction. Courage is, in a nutshell, persistence and resistance. Moderation, or temperance, is about doing more with less, saying more in fewer words. While Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk battle it out for the top spot on the Forbes list, Stoics believe that the limit to wealth should be to have what is necessary and then have what is sufficient. Justice is the most important of all virtues. It teaches that no one should harm another, because we are all born to do good to one another, not just to ourselves. Nelson Mandela was one of the most famous African leaders in the world. During the struggle against apartheid, he was sentenced to life in prison, where he spent 27 years before he was finally released. When he was released from prison, he was elected president of South Africa, and many people thought that he would severely punish anyone who had anything to do with apartheid or his imprisonment. But of course he didn't. Throughout his imprisonment, Mandela read the works of Marcus Aurelius and learned many of the core values of Stoicism that he practiced throughout his life. Instead of calling for the punishment of the guilty, Nelson Mandela urged his people to seek the opposite, to calm down and recover. He emphasized that the past was beyond their control, and that the only thing they could do was find a way to move forward and build a better nation. This is the way of the Stoic. In modern medicine, Stoicism is the basis of procedures such as rational, emotional, and behavioral therapy, REBT, and logotherapy. REBT helps patients identify negative thought patterns that may be causing emotional and behavioral problems. It allows you to logically question the basis of these negative thoughts. And when you realize that many of them are unfounded, you can replace them with more productive and healthy beliefs. Logotherapy, on the other hand, is based on the Stoic principle that people are driven by purpose. Even in the darkest of situations, we can fill our lives with meaning and happiness simply by finding our purpose. But as we all know, it's easier said than done. It's a process, just like anything else. We have to re-educate our thoughts. We discard the old, we introduce the new. To solve our happiness problems, we must practice self-esteem. By determining our worth through the things we can control, we can stop focusing on the things we cannot control and can live a much happier and more satisfying life overall. Stoicism helps us sail through past and present storms to calmer and more peaceful waters. And if our ship sinks and we all drown, we can find peace in the fact that we have lived a good life, albeit not as long as we had hoped. Remember, everything has an end.